YouTube, what's happening? We are back. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully your day is going well and your week is going even better. But let's focus on the topic of today's video. It's part 3 in this series, which I wasn't going to have this as part 3, but something came up to where I felt I should do this video. And that's going to concern with the rear bumper delete for the Element Enduro Trailrunner 4x4. So let's go ahead and drop that intro footage and get into the video. Welcome back, Sinister Supreme team members. Thanks for coming back and checking out a new video. If you're a new subscriber, thank you for subscribing to J Sinister Productions. We appreciate it. And if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead, tap that subscribe button and get on board with the Sinister Supreme team. Fam, let's go ahead and talk about a few things that I've done to the shell for the Element Enduro Trailrunner 4x4. I've went ahead and pre-drilled with my body ring tool all the holes I'm going to use to mount all the accessories and things to the Trailrunner. I've cleaned up all my cuts. There's still some peel here, but this peel is going to come away once I remove the protective film, so not too worried about that. But the focus of today's video is going to be right back here in the rear, and that's going to be with this rear bumper delete. I have it inside of the shell right now so I can mark my spot, and I'll show you why in a second. So we have a option of using the stock bumper or stock rear valence setup that's going to go right about here with the 2 small holes you drill, press fit, and then use the plastic disc on the inside. Or if you're using the Knight Customs kit, which I'm using pretty much the full kit, and you're using the Knight Customs fender flares, or fenders, but I'm going to call them fender flares that go here, you're going to want to use the Knight Custom rear bumper delete. And the reason why is the fender flares that are 3D printed from Knight Customs only use 4 of the holes to install the fender flare at the rear for this particular shell. So the 5th hole, which is down here at the bottom, right down here, you won't need. So you'll have some extra overhang right here that may look out of place. So I decided to go ahead and use the bumper delete. Now, here's the problem with the bumper delete. You have to cut, again, you have to cut your own lines in order to install this. So what I've done is, and if you don't have any of these mini clamps, I suggest you get a bunch. They're very worth it, especially in cases like this where it's hard to keep things in alignment in areas such as this. That way, if you need to draw some lines or see what a mock's going to look like, you'll have a better idea. So I've got these clamps here to hold the rear bumper in place so I can draw lines, and I'm going to move over to Deuce Cam so I can show you what you're going to have to do. And as a reminder, take your time. You have to be careful, because if you mess up, as always, it's a wrap. So let's move over to Deuce Cam and take a look at where this line is going to be cut and how this should install. Okay, fam, now we're over at Deuce Cam, and you can kind of see behind the clear Lexan where I have the rear bumper mocked up right now to give me an idea of where to draw my lines. Now, if you take a look right here, this bottom line that has already been pre-punched, so to speak, into the body shell is the rear hatch or rear door of the Trailrunner 4x4. This is about where you want to cut your line, but as you can see, let me get up in focus here, it's going to be kind of hard. Below that, and I'll take this bumper out, there's a small lip on this 3D printed bumper. So your real cut is going to be a little bit lower. So when you start your cuts, you want to cut lower, a lot lower than your intended cut line, so that you can change up and take away material as needed. Whereas once you take away too much material, it's pretty much over. So let's take this bumper out so you can see the lip I was talking about. Right along this edge here, right along here, there's a small lip. And you should be able to see that barely. And by the way, I've been doing some sanding, so that's why it looks this way. It won't 3D print like this. I've already pre-sanded before I prime. But there's a little lip right here that goes all the way around. here. This is where your cut line is going to end up being flush with from the body to the bumper. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to draw my line, do my cuts, do some mocks, do some more cuts, do another mock, and then do some more cuts until I get it right. And then at the end of this video, hopefully you'll be able to see the finished product. And if you can follow along, because I'm going to speed this up a bit, because it's going to be boring if I don't speed it up and add some music. But if you can follow along, you'll see just what I'm doing as far as my lines and my cuts, so that I can get everything as flush as possible without taking away too much material and then having one of those oh shit moments where either I try to fab up something to make it look right or I jerry rig it just to get everything to fit. Sorry about the focus here. That's what we're going to do. So let's move on. We're going to switch back to the main cam, get this thing started. Let's go. All right, fam, we've cut some material away a little bit by a little bit, and that's the way you want to do this, bit by bit. Don't cut away a whole bunch and then you'll be stuck like Chuck. Cut away a bit at a time. So it's going to be hard for you to see here, but there is a small, I showed you before at the very beginning, there's a ridge here on the side. I'm going to go ahead and mark my line off of that ridge and start cutting off the sides on each corner, or each back corner I should say. Let me get this in, so that I can start custom fitting this side of the bumper into the body. So let's move on and do that now. Let's get it. All right, after doing a little bit of trimming here and there, bit by bit, I'm at the point where I can comfortably say I like where my lines are, my rough lines are. So now I can take my Dremel tool or any rotary, I'm using a Win, not a Dremel. Any rotary tool of your choice, I'm going to use the Win. And now I'm going to clean up these edges to smooth things out. But at this point, I'm pretty much done with the Lexan scissors because I like where my cuts are. I'm going to jump into Deuce Cam so you can see where it's at. Remember, these are still rough, but they're at the point where I'm ready to do the fine tuning. So let's move over to cam number 2. Okay, so here we go again. You can kind of see here my lines are pretty good. They're close. I can just do some trimming now with the rotary tool, kind of clean that up a bit to my liking. And it pretty much fits where I think it should throughout. So that's going to be the next step, is just clean up these lines, get it to where I feel satisfied with the look, get that back into focus, here we are, and make everything nice and neat. So again, as you're doing this, if you choose to do this on your own, you don't have to. This is just something an option I went with. Take your time and do small cuts here and there. You don't have to remove a lot of plastic initially. Take more time to get it right the first time versus taking less time and messing up the first time. So let's move into the rotary tool, clean this up. We'll speed it up again, then we'll get back and look at the finished product mocked up on the body. Let's get it. right, fam. Excuse me. It looks like I've got it pretty close, and pretty close is good enough for me because I want to have a little extra material, because the way you affix this to your body shell is going to be with some sort of adhesive, and you want to have a little bit of material behind the Lexan so that you can fuse the two together with the adhesive. So here's a quick look. You can see that if you can see through the shell, you can see the piece of the black of the bumper that is sticking up more so. That's the portion where I'm going to put the adhesive so that it will bind to the body shell. let's go over to Deuce Cam so we can take a closer look and you can see how good my cuts turned out. You know, there's a little mistake here, not much, not very noticeable to the eye. You have to really eyeball it. Once everything is painted and color matched, it will be even more difficult to see, but my lines are pretty good. And again, this is to my satisfaction. I'm not worried about anyone else's satisfaction, but to my satisfaction. And I've got it pretty much where I need it to be. Again, slow speeds with your rotary tool will turn a disaster into something beautiful. Go too fast, you're going to mess up, because remember, you're actually melting away material. You're not really cutting, or you're sanding in a sense, but you're actually melting away material. So there we go. So our next step, let's go back to the main cam. Our next step is we're going to take this bad boy outside. We're going to get some primer on it, and then we're going to come back and mock it up again with it primed up and on the body. And then after that, the only other thing we have to do is get this ready for paint, which is going to include washing of the body, scrubbing the inside with a Scotch pad or dish sponge, or rough dish sponge. Don't scrub the windows, especially if you're going to leave them clear, because that's going to look, you'll see the scratch marks. Applying all the window mask decals, painting all the parts. I've got polycarbonate paints for the shell. Then I've got plastic paints, both by Tamiya, and I'll reveal those colors to you in the next video. And hopefully everything body matches up. And I also will paint the rear light buckets, probably black, to kind of blend in as a light bucket would. And then I'll also do some accent painting up front on the front bumper. But let's go ahead and get this primed up and come back with a shot of the primed and mocked and on the rear of the Element Enduro Trailrunner 4x4. All right, fam, here we go. We're done. We got the primer on, mocked it up again. You may be able to see a little bit better how it fits. I'm going to have to go back, as you can tell on the bottom, based off of how I printed this. I should have printed it upside down. We have to go back and do a little bit more sanding, get rid of some of these ridges and indentations, get that down somewhat smooth, although you won't be able to see this when the truck is, you know, like this, but this is all personal preference. So resand, and then after I resand this, our next video will be on to paint, and then after paint, we'll move on to the installation on the body and give a before and after look of how the Trailrunner 4x4 from Element Enduro looks stock, with the stock body and stock options, to how it looks with the Night Customs options on it. So that's coming up next. As always, fam, thanks for sticking around. Really appreciate you. We at J Sinister Productions know that you have a lot of choices. We're talking millions of choices on YouTube for channels to follow and subscribe, and for videos to watch. And for watching this video, we appreciate you checking us out, being that we are so small. If you have not subscribed yet, please take the time to click that subscribe button, drop a few comments below if you need to, and check the description box for information on how you can further help this channel grow, and information possibly on any links to products that I describe, which we've linked the Element Enduro Trailrunner body and Night Customs pieces in previous videos, but I'll put those in the description box below. But thank you very much for stopping by. Our next video will be on to paint, and as always, I am Jay of J Sinister Productions, exiting stage left.
So exit stage left.
J Sinister Productions.